Here's my TGB scooter from 2005, TGB Akros 50cc scooter. Purchased it new off the showroom floor, and the chap at the shop said they'll run forever. Need to do nothing with them. Occasionally change the spark plug and look after your tyres. So that's all I've done for 26,000 kilometres. The bike's been getting slower and slower and slower. I assumed it was just the belt wearing, and I thought I'd get around to fixing that one day. It all come to a head when my accelerator cable broke about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago now, and I had to find one from 2005. Couldn't find one for the life of me. Searching on the internet, and I found a chap in Queensland who's got a website, Scooter Street, he calls himself. Goes by the name of Brad. Now, he basically sells all the parts you need for all sorts of bikes, and he was able to accommodate me with a accelerator cable, which was great. So I swapped that over, got the bike running again, but upon looking on his website, he's got a ton of videos. He does mention that the crankshaft in these bikes does tend to, particularly the TGB bike, does tend to die after 20,000 kilometres. So it's mine's done 26,000. So I thought I'll take off the engine case on the back and have a look inside, which was a bit of fun. I had to make some tools to pull it apart, and I found some bits in there that I probably didn't want to find. So some broken plastic bits, and I'll show you those. I made some videos when I was pulling off the back engine case cover, and I was sending them up to Brad in Queensland just for some advice on how to do things. So I'll include some of them. He was good enough to look at my videos and get back to me, so I'll include them in this TGB rebuild, and you can sort of have a look at what I had to do in order to discover what I need to do to fix this thing, because I don't really have any experience with pulling apart TGB motorbikes. I can make all sorts of things, and I'm pretty handy with the hands, so I thought I'd give this a go. G'day Brad, I'm here checking out this crankshaft. I've taken the casing off. Straight away I noticed some of the clips broken in the bottom there, so the variator definitely needs to come off and have some servicing. But the variator itself is different to what I'm seeing on your website. I managed to get these guys off. This is was sitting like that, bolted onto the here and here. This looks like it's the nut here. Well, I'm thinking that'll unscrew, but it does say unlock with an arrow that way and lock with an arrow that way. So I am presuming this is an anti-clockwise thread, which gets to the next question, is if I change the crankshaft, I'm going to need an anti-clockwise thread to put this nut back on if I go with this variator. So I'm not sure if I can use the same variator or if I'm going to have to get a new one. The other thing I noticed is the TGB, it has no access at all. There's no access to get to the cylinder head. This is all metal. The whole case, there's no access port through the tank. You're probably aware of the Akros. You've got to basically take the whole motor out to get to the cylinder head. So it seems to me if I'm going to do the crankshaft, I kind of got to do the whole thing all in one go, or I'm going to be pulling it out several times, which is not ideal. Rightio, variator off. That was fun. So to get this guy off, which was near impossible, had to make myself a tool. First two holes didn't line up, so we made a tool that clamps onto those two bolts, and then I was able to undo it anti-clockwise. So we've got it off. There is absolutely no plastic clips on it whatsoever. And look at these rollers, they've got flat spots on them. I think they might be worn out, mate. So I think I'm going to need some new rollers and new plastic clips. Everything else looks okay, I guess. Now the big question was in relation to the shaft here. Now I'm thinking it's rock solid still. So I don't know. I don't ride it far to work, and I only ride it to and from work every couple of days. So it's done 26,000 kilometres, but it hasn't been pushed real hard, so maybe I'm just lucky there. There is no play in that whatsoever. So, nope, I can't even make it wiggle. So I think I'm good with that. Just need to fix that. But that's not going to increase my speed any. As I said, I need to get to higher than 52 would be good. So I don't know if that's just engine tuning or a bigger piston. Maybe just a new piston. Maybe the old piston's worn out. I don't know. Either way, I think I've got to pull the whole motor out. So I guess that's the next task once I decide what I'm buying. But definitely variated wheels and probably an exhaust and probably a piston head for the time being. So yeah. So here's the TGB Variator. This part here sits on the back of the bike, and it's basically directly attached to the crankshaft. So as the bike accelerates, this is what causes the gear change ratio. The belt starts at the bottom and then it slides up as this wheel pushes in. And how that works is there's a couple of rollers in here, and they roll up as the bike accelerates. The centrifugal forces pushes them out, which pushes these rollers up. So they go up this little ramp here, and they force this part to separate. So it comes out like this as it moves out, and it squeezes the belt, which changes the gear ratio, if that makes sense. Now, a few things on this. There is usually plastic clips here, here, and here. So when it slides up and down on these plastic clips. Now, my plastic clips, they weren't there. They'd broken off. I'd found some bits inside the engine case, but most of them had been pulverised, I presume, by the gears in the back there. And what that did is it caused that groove to grow in that bit of metal there. So where this thing slides up and down, it had cut a groove into the variator. So the maximum speed the bike could reach is obviously the top of that groove, because that little bit of metal couldn't slide any higher than that. So that was limiting my speed. It didn't help any that my rollers as well had developed some fantastic flat spots. They probably weren't working either properly. So yeah, I would suggest checking your variator every 5,000 kilometres probably, to make sure those plastic bits are still in working order and not on the way out. I ordered some parts the other day to try get my scoot up and running again, since the variator was broken. I initially wanted a new variator, but Brad didn't have any available. He had a second-hand one, which I was more than happy to take. So I grabbed that. I grabbed a new petrol filter. So they're both fitted to the bike already. They're the old ones there. That's the old variator with the massive grooves in it. Unbelievable. The old petrol filter. So I've got a new Malossi air filter, which I'll be able to make two out of that actually to fit in my airbox. Got a gasket for the exhaust, new spark plug just because. New Malossi belt. That one's 18mm wide, so we'll see how that goes. It's about the same length as my existing one, I believe. And I got a second-hand exhaust, racing exhaust. So that won't fit on exactly, but we should be able to get it going. I've got a lathe and a welder and bits and pieces, so we should be able to knock something up to get that fitted. Alright. Okay, I've just taken it out for a quick spin. I put some black markers on the variator in there, so I'll get back and we'll see how the bike went. I got to actually 62 kilometres an hour. Haven't been able to do that for quite a while, so those grooves in the variator when the plastic broke off definitely stopped the bike from going any faster. So I was at 62, which was quite a feat for me for a change. I'll head home now, and I've got a Malossi belt. I'll try that next. Okay, back in the workshop. Going to take the case off. I've just been for a spin. Put some black texture lines on the variator. So let's just see how much of those texture lines rubbed off, see where the belt was going. Obviously we want it getting to the top of the variator. because when it's at the top of the variator, it's at the bottom of the back here, and it's giving me the most speed. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so we've taken the cover off. You can just see my black line there. So the belt hasn't reached the top. It could get a little higher. There's the other black line. Yeah, okay. So I'll swap this belt over for the Malossi belt, which is a little wider, so it'll probably reach the top with any luck. But it being wider, it mightn't go as low on the back here, so it may end up sort of cancelling each other out. Anyway, we'll swap it over and we'll see what happens. There we go. Impact wrench did a successful job. So we've taken off the back there. I don't know what colour spring that is. I think it was red at some point. I've got my belt off, and we've got the Malossi belt and the old one. So I'll just measure the distance and we'll see what the thickness difference is. Alright, calipers here. We've got about 17, 18 there on the Malossi belt, and the old one about 16. Alright, so we'll see what happens. Okay, we're back from a run with the Malossi belt on, and I couldn't get the same speed I got out of the other belt, that's for sure. So, but interestingly, all my pen marks are right off. So the belt clearly got to the top, but I was going slower. So the only thing I can think is it's not getting to the bottom of this guy over here, the rear clutch. So I might need to see if I can make the clutch somehow go wider for it, if that's at all possible. We'll have a look at that. So that's the variator at fully compressed mode. So that's where you'd have your maximum speed. Let's just chuck the belt on it and have a look how it looks. Okay, so the Malossi belt sits right at the top. So that's why all the paint was taken off. It seems like it's the ideal belt for this one, but I'm not sure it can get to the bottom of the rear clutch. And that's my old belt, so it sits a fair way down inside it. However, it can get to the bottom of the rear clutch. So that'll give me 62, 63, 4, 5 kilometers an hour. The other belt will only get me to about 55 because it's not turning the back wheel as fast. Little spanner again, so the holes, little bolts in the back there, go into the clutch plate there, shifter on here, and I can undo it. Don't have a socket big enough for the impact gun for this, but this method works. So there's my spring. So there's some red on it, but the issue I believe is this doesn't open wide enough to let the Malossi belt get to the bottom. So let's see what we can do about that. Don't want to damage it in the same process. So if I take some of this off here on the lathe, let's pull it apart and have a look. Okay, I just put a black line in there, if you can see it there. That's the Malossi belt. It doesn't seem to go as far down as the other belt, which could be explaining why I can't hit 65 kilometers an hour. So we'll just try the other belt. And that's the original belt. So this rear clutch needs to go wider, but it can't. It's got that little pin in there, and unless there's some sort of adjustable kit to allow me to move that pin over a little bit further. I think I'll be needing a different size rear clutch to accommodate the Malossi belt. It's great on the front, gets to the very top of the pulley, which is exactly where I want it, but it won't get any lower than that on the rear because it just simply doesn't fit. So that's what's holding up the speed with the Malossi belt.